I want to especially appreciate everyone for joining the section, and I want to thank the Youth Alive Fellowship and Covenant University for this privilege and giving me this platform to work with them on this particular youth empowerment program. So basically, today I'm going to talk about Azure Total Cost of Ownership Calculator. So what Total Cost of Ownership Calculator means is just that, let me use my painting tool. So I'll just open painting tool. Let's say, for instance, I just want to use it to illustrate what TCO actually means and why it is important for an organization to calculate their TCO. So let me just move this guy down. Okay, so now let's say, for instance, I want to use shapes. Let me use shapes. Let me use this guy. Let me say this is an organization. This is an organization. They have server 1, and also they have server 2, and also they have server 3. So I'm going to name each of them individually. So let me just use my text bowl here. Let me go from here. Let's say server 1, and server 1 is used for, let's say, application. Let me say core banking application. Core banking application. So server 1 is used for core banking application. So I think I made a mistake here. Application. Then let me just make it bold. Then increase the font to like 14, so it can be. So server 1 is used for core banking application. Then we have server 2. So let me just over here. So server 2 now could be for file management. File management. So I'll just enlarge it. So server 2 is for file management. So we have server 1 for core banking application, server 2 for file management. Then here we have, let's see, this other one should be, let me just call it server 3. Server 3 for server 3 should be for what other services can we use a server to host? Let's say server 3 is for, let me say, telephone
management cloud.
Cloud management, right? Okay, management, cloud management. Fine. So let me just select it and build it. So this organization now have 3 servers. They have 3 servers: server 1, server 2, server 3. And server 1, let me see, because server 1 is an application server, you need to have high processor. Let's say this server is, let's say 120, let's say it's 120 gig RAM, server 1, because it's used to run applications, so it needs to have high memory capacity. Let's say it's using 4 TB, let me say 4 TB HDD. Then it's using maybe 44 processors. So let's just stop here for the specification of application server. Then let's come to this other side. Let's see the file server now. Because the file server, let's just say it's using 100 gig RAM. Then the storage, since it's a file server, let's say the storage is 20 TB. Because imagine a big organization. So a file server is used as a storage repository for files, documents, and even application packages. So let's come down. So let's say 20 TB. Since it's file server, maybe we are still using HDD for the drives. Then processor now, because it's file server, we can say 35, maybe 35 for processor. So let me just put in this guy. So I'm just trying to do like how I just want to show us how we can manage, how we can like use TCO, but I want to make us understand what TCO actually mean and how it works. So here now, I'm now going to say for my cloud management, let's say I'm just using 50 gigs because cloud management don't really consume much just to manage my cloud. Maybe this server is hosting, maybe I've installed, maybe that's what I'm using to manage my cloud environment. Like maybe I installed this my server endpoint for my storage account. So let me say it's using 50 gig RAM and also it's using, let's say, 5 GB HDD. Then it's using maybe 20 core processor. So now here we go. So this is what our server uses. So we have server 1, server 2, server 3. So these servers now, let's say for instance, to manage these servers, let me just do total cost of ownership. So for server management, let's say to manage this server, electricity, you are spending, let's say for monthly, you are spending for electricity, you are spending like 6 million naira every month. 6 million. Then for generator, this is the electricity now is more or less like if maybe you are using Asia Electric, let's say Asia Electric. So I want to streamline it because sometimes there may be no light and you need to run diesel. So if you are using diesel, let's say generator to power this server, you are spending nothing less than, let's say, you are spending maybe 10 million. So here we are. So we're just trying to do an estimate of what you are spending if you are managing the server. So basically now, if an organization wants to calculate TCO, so let me say, for instance, I'm the MD of this company. This company name is, let me say this company's name is Youth Alive. Let me just call it Youth Alive. Youth Alive. Let's say fellowship. Fellowship. Did I get the sheet very well? Ah, it's fellowship. Let me remove the X. Just bolding it. And then we increase the font. It can be each Y. Let's say 26. Let's say Youth Alive Fellowship. They are the owner of these servers. And Youth Alive, they are tired of having these servers in their on-premise environment. So all these servers here, they are all on-prem. All these servers here, like server 1, server 2, server 3, they are on-prem. When we say servers are on-prem, it means that they are in your local environment. You can see them, you can manage them. Those of us that are privileged to go to, let's say, Faith Tabernacle Data Center, when you go there, you will see that they have a lot of servers in CITS there. They have a lot of servers, and sometimes even we that were in ICT group, some of our applications we host them in those servers, or the servers are actually physical in their environment. So let's say Youth Alive Fellowship now. They want to have they want to migrate server 1, server 2, server 3 to the cloud because they are spending, maybe the total cost of everything that they are spending is even, let's say they are spending 16 million to manage this infrastructure locally. And aside 16 million, this 16 million, it cannot be predictable. Some month you may spend more than 16 million. Government can wake up and say they want to increase price of diesel. Your 10 million might now move to 15 million. So there are some house owners or people that own all these real estate or the like, they are complaining because the price of all these diesel have increased. So for them to manage their infrastructure, maybe they have given you, let's say, 100K per day. And because you want to book the property for 1 year, you just paid for 1 year. At the end of the day, they are losing because if they look at the amount they charge you when they collect the money, if they can go back and increase the price, they'll be why? Because most of all these costs are not predictable. You can't predict it. Anything can happen. It can go up, it can come down. So as it is here, generator average that you are spending to power these servers is 10 million. Why for Ikeja Electric, if you are buying units for your prepaid meter, you are spending 6 million naira every month. And these are the servers you have. So now Pastor Steve, who is the National Youth Pastor of LFC worldwide, now say, I don't want these servers to be on-prem. I want them to be migrated to the cloud. So the first thing as a cloud engineer you do when servers want to be migrated to the cloud is you take an inventory. So you take an inventory of what they have in their servers, like the capacity of the servers. Like server one now, the capacity of server one is 120 gig RAM. It uses 4 TB SSD. It uses 40 core processor. Server 2 uses 100 gig RAM, 20 TB HDD, 35 core processor. Server 3 uses 50 gig RAM, 5 TB HDD, and 20 core processor. So if you want to migrate the servers to Azure now, Microsoft have what we call total cost of ownership calculator. You own the server, right? You know how much you spend in managing these servers. If you want to migrate them to Microsoft Azure, you can use Microsoft Azure to calculate the amount you can pay to host these servers in Microsoft Azure. Because now, most CEOs and MDs, anytime they want to do migration, they are more concerned about the money they are spending because it is planned before you manufacture, not manufacture, then plan. You don't plan after you have migrated. You plan before you migrate. So Pastor Steve will now be like, I want to know how much I will spend. Let me know if the money I'll be spending in the cloud will be cheaper than the 16 million I spend when it's on-prem. So for you to know if it is more profitable to manage your infrastructure locally, or it is more profitable to manage your infrastructure in the cloud, for you to know that, you use total cost of ownership calculator. So now that we have already known we have 3 servers locally, and we want to calculate the cost of us hosting these servers in the cloud so that it will not be as if we are taking unaware or we are not planning. For you to do that, you need to use total cost of ownership calculator. So if you want to use your total cost of ownership calculator, you can open any of your favorite browsers. Like me, these days I like using Microsoft Edge because Microsoft Edge comes with Copilot, and I love Copilot because Copilot really helps to make my life easier. So here now it is, just come to any of your favorite browser. Like I say, just type TCO stands for Total Cost of Ownership Calculator. So you can just say TCO in Azure because TCO can mean anything in different field. In Microsoft, TCO means Total Cost of Ownership Calculator. In what are the total cost of ownership? In medical science, TCO may mean something else. In architecture, TCO may mean another thing. So most times, if we are doing our search online, we should be specific. What is TCO? As in TCO in Azure. So once you hit enter, it takes you to this page here. So you will see the first link, which is total cost of ownership calculator. So what you just do, you either right click and open on a new tab, or you click on it directly. So I'm opening on a new tab. So I'll just come here on the new tab that I've opened. Then we have total cost of ownership calculator here. It's good to always be updated, like, because Microsoft changes things every second. Every second they change things. You may think that you are good, you know what you are doing. By the time you don't update yourself, you may now discover that the things you think you know before, it has changed. You can go for an interview. They'll tell you, okay, come and create a storage account. Like one interview I went for 2022. Like I told them that I can do AutoCAD, I can do this, I can do that. When I just go there, they say, oh yeah, go and do AutoCAD. The software has changed. Everything has changed. I was like, hey, where will I start from? So sometimes it's good because you can go for an interview now, and the interviewer will just come, okay, sure, you know how to use Microsoft Azure, or you come and create a virtual network. By the time you go there, maybe the one I taught you, you go to Azure portal, search for virtual network, you click on create. Then when you click on create, you now saw that you are not seeing subscription, you are not seeing results flow, you are not seeing this, you are not seeing that. Those things may still be there, but it has changed. And for you to be able to move with the trend, you have to always follow up, watch videos on YouTube, study, read Microsoft Learn, always update yourself. So as you can see here, total cost of ownership calculator will be duplicated early July 2025. To learn how to use TCO using other Azure tools or resources, refer to this blog. So Microsoft is telling me that TCO will be depreciated in early July 2025. We're already in August. Meaning that it has been depreciated. So now to use TCO, I will just walk us through. But before we even click on it, let's open this blog. Let's see what this blog has to say. So I'll just open on a new tab so that we all will see the latest updates. So we'll just wait for it to load. So this is Microsoft Tech Community. Why I say I like using Edge is because sometimes I may not have time to be reading all these things, like from here, just study. So what I will just do is I'll just click on Copilot here on the left here. I can just say, help me summarize this page. So once you say help me summarize this page, Copilot will summarize everything on the page. If you are going to school these days, if you want to read, life is very easy. Just go online, do your assignments, just tell the AI to help you summarize. So the key takeaways now is more or less like why TCO matters. That is what this page is talking about. If you can take your time to read it, everything here is what Microsoft Copilot has explained to you. So we can see here why TCO matters. TCO helps organizations understand the full financial impact of migrating workload to Azure, just like we explained here on our draw board. So Pastor Steve now wants to migrate his own local servers to Microsoft Azure. Total cost of ownership calculator will help Pastor Steve be able to will help him understand the full financial impact of migrating workloads to Azure. And it includes all cost, component, infrastructure operation, licensing, facilities, and migration. That is the advantage of total cost of ownership calculator and why it matters. So building a TCO analysis. So current infrastructure, you need to access servers, database, storage, and network traffic, Azure configuration, match virtual machine, storage type, and networking. So basically, what this means is that for you to build a TCO analysis, like I made mention earlier, you need to connect to the environment and find out the specification of their servers. If they are using database servers, what are the spec? Is it Mongo? Is it MongoDB? Is it MariaDB? Is it MySQL? You just have to find out the particular database that they are using in their environment. So we'll go back to the portal. So here on the portal now, we can see that tools for estimating cost. So one of the tools for estimating cost we have here is Azure Pricing Calculator, which we talked about pricing calculator last week. And I need you guys to understand that Azure Pricing Calculator will just give you the estimate of what you will spend. It gives you the estimate. When they say estimate, it won't give you the actual cost. Because if you go and tell a customer that this is the actual amount that you spend, God forbid, if they now exceed that price, they can take it to court. Your word against their word. They told us that this is what we spend. Companies can joke with anything, but they don't joke with their finance. Finance is very important because every company is out there to make profit. No company wants to make unplanned losses. So that's why financial management is key and very important. So Azure Pricing Calculator estimates cost for Azure services. It's useful for budgeting and planning. So we have Azure Migrate. So what Azure Migrate do is that it offers discovery assessment and migrating planning. Let's say, for instance, you want to migrate your servers to Azure. You can use Azure Migrate. So what Azure Migrate will help you do, it will help you automate the process of discovering your servers. For instance, now if you are not using Azure Migrate 2, you have to go there and be checking the spec or the rights. But to use Azure Migrate, it offers discovery assessment and migrating planning. And with Azure Migrate, you can also use it to migrate your server directly from your local infrastructure to Microsoft Azure. So its business case feature provides detailed TCO and ROIO analysis. When we say TCO is total cost of ownership, while ROI is return on investment. So total cost of ownership is the amount you will be able to pay to have it, while return on investment is the amount you will save if you have invested. Like I made mention earlier, if we come here now, the total cost of ownership here is 16 million naira. That's what Pastor Steve spent on utilized infrastructure. I'm just saying, like, just giving a facetious amount. That's what he spent to manage maybe the application servers and the like. And the return on investment now could be that if he migrates this workload to Azure, he's going to be spending, let's say, 5 million naira. So you'll be spending 5 million. So if Pastor Steve is spending 5 million naira, the total cost of ownership here is 16 million naira, which is the cost for electricity and the cost for generator, 16 million. So if you migrate this workload to Azure, the return on investment will now be, so this is the total amount he will spend in Azure. So if he's spending 5 million in Azure, what will be his ROI? So his ROIO will be, his ROIO will now be 11 million, meaning that Pastor Steve will spend 11 million if he migrates his workload to Azure. If you are working with a client and you tell the customer that you are going to save 11 million, you know what it means? That's a very big money. 11 million minus 16 million. And this 5 million you see, is predictable. You can say, okay, that's what you want to spend for 1 year. And Microsoft even gives more cheaper options. Like if you're using reservation or saving plans, you have options to pay upfront and you get cheaper prices for the services you want to deploy. So we can see how that works. Let me go back to the documentation again. So here now we can see Azure migrate process. So it discovers IT access and dependencies. It plan readiness and gets right size recommendations and creates migration waves. Migrate workload in phase to minimal disruption. So basically, migrating workload in phase is more or less like you are migrating them one by one. You don't just migrate everything at the same time. Because if you are migrating your, maybe for instance, you have 3 databases, and those databases are in a cluster whereby they are on failover in such a way that they can fail over to one another. It will not be best practice to migrate all of them at the same time. Because if you are migrating all of them at the same time, and maybe your application is using that database, what will happen? The application will be down. Because even if the application is not down, users of that application will not be able to retrieve their information from that application. So that is why migrating workload in phases is good. So what is the business benefit? It highlights cost savings, discount, and year-on-year cash flow. It helps shift from capital expenditures to operational expenditures. So here now, capital expenditure here is, all these are capital expenditure. The capital expenditure here now is, you are paying for, you already bought the servers. All these are capital. You bought the servers or with this spec. The operational expenditures now that you are spending monthly is the one you are paying for electricity, the one you are paying for generator and the lights. So in Microsoft Azure now, you can move from all these unnecessary spending, whereby you'll be, because normally servers, you service them in a year. So you have to be servicing them, you have to employ a lot of sysadmin in your organization. So imagine now maybe in a firm that they have like 5 system administrators managing their servers. If they migrate this workload to the cloud, they don't need one person. So that is why people are saying AI will take my job, AI will take my job. If you know the advanced skills, like you know cloud computing, you know cybersecurity, you know AI, you know all these skills, AI cannot take your job. Because if your company now decides to migrate their workload to Azure, who will be managing it? You'll be the one. You'll be the one managing it because you have the experience. So that's just it. So let's come back to our documentation. So here now we have business case benefit. So one of the business case benefits here is that it highlights cost savings, discounts, and year-on-year cash flow. And also it helps you shift from capital expenditure to operational expenditure. Because if you are using the cloud, you only pay for what you use. You are not paying for what you are not using. It's what you use. If you start your virtual machine, Microsoft will be billing you. Once you stop your virtual machine and your virtual machine is deallocated, you don't get billed. So that is an advantage of cloud and why it is good. So that's just basically what this link is talking about. So I'm going to drop the link on the chat so that those of us that want to go through it, we can just go through it for more proper understanding. Let me just drop it on the chat while we go back to TCO and do our TCO, then we just do. So I'll just minimize. So now back to the total cost of ownership calculator page. I'm going to close Copilot for the meantime because I may not need Copilot here. So first thing first, you may need to sign in. The advantage of signing in is because if you sign in, anything you are working on will be saved to your profile. Because if you are a salesperson now and you want to do TCO for a customer, so it's good you sign in so you can save that particular cost. So I've clicked on sign in. Let me sign in again. Let me see. So I've signed in already. So this is my name, Oyimafu Emmanuel. My Outlook, emmanuel.oyimafu@outlook.com. So I've already signed in. So what it means is that because I've signed in, I can view saved reports. If I save any report, I can view them later for my use. So now, what we have here is more or less like Pastor Steve wants to know how much you will spend if you migrate this particular workload to the cloud, right? That means I'm going to estimate for 3 virtual machines, 1, 2, 3, and these are the capacities of the virtual machine. So I'll just come here, come to TCO. Then now we're adding servers, right? I'll now click on add server workload. So how many physical servers do we have? So we'll come here, so we can add them one after the other. So what did we call that first server? Again, we called it server 1. So I'll go back and name this server 1. Server 1. So server 1 now, which operating system is running on it? So because it's running our application, right? Server 1 is running our application. So most applications run on Linux environment. So I'll just say it runs on a Linux server. So basically here, say, you can say Linux or Windows. So let's leave it as Linux. So the environment could be physical servers or virtual machines. So if it's a virtual machine, it means that maybe you're using VMware. Maybe the server you want to migrate is a VM on a VMware host or a VM on a Hyper-V host. So I'll just select physical servers here. Then under the operating system, application server now, it could be using Linux or Windows operating system. So you could either select each of them. So because this is our application server 1, so this is for application. So since it's for application, so this is our application server. So here now, the operating system is Linux because we are running Linux on it. So how many? 1. What is the process per server? Let's say 1. So the processor core now. So this core now, I'm going to give it, how many do we even have on our chart? We have 40, right? 40. So let me see if I can give it up to 40. Let's say 40, because I'm seeing one of it there. Let's just see. Let me see if we can go 40. So we can't go more than 8. So let's see 8 core processor. That's what we're giving it. So for the processor now, let's increase it so that we can have more. So let me see. So we can see 4 cores per server. So if we see 4 times 8, 4 times 8, what will 4 times 8 give us? Let me check my calculator. Yeah. So 4 times 8, 4 times 8 will give us 32. 32. So 32 is not even up to 40. So let me just come here and change this to 32. So let's just say we have 32 core, or let's just,
So,
let's,
so you
yeah?
can make it 5 core. You can make it 5 core. 5 times 8 is 40.
Okay, 5 times 8, right? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So
So like
I can't go more than 5. I
no,
can't go more
sorry,
than
five
5.
five process by per server and 8
Okay.
core.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, this one here now, I can't go more
Yeah.
than that because
Okay, you can
4 is
go.
the limit.
Okay.
4 is the limit.
Okay.
So now
Okay.
for RAM, how many gig RAM did you specify? Let's check. We specified 120 gig RAM. So let me minimize this guy and select 120. 120. Let me just type 120. So this is very large. Like, so you can select any of these CPU since it's an application server. So we need CPU more than memory. So now we have added server 1, which is application server. So let's add server 2 now. So server 2 is our, what do we call server 2 again?
Please, I want to ask the question. Why did you select eight core under that core processor?
Yeah. So basically, we're picking, normally all these are server properties. So from here, from our diagram, from our estimation of what we use in our on-premise environment. So when we're doing our architecting, we used 40 core processor for server one. So for us to use 40 core processor to calculate it, the process per server is 4. So normally 4 times 8 give us, I think, 36. We can't 32. We can't go more than, I think we can go 5 processes for servers. It would have even be okay. But here now, the core process that we selected is 8. So if we change it, but we are going to do other ones that will change to Linux. But basically, that's why we selected 4 processes per servers and 8 core per processor. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay.
So it depends on the
But
customer.
does he have a standard for this core? Is there any standard figure for it? Or one can just choose any figure?
So it depends on the application you are running. It's just like maybe, for instance, now you want to manage a core banking application. You understand? So core banking application, maybe for instance, you want to manage an application that people will be using for POS. You know the way people use POS? Every second, people are withdrawing money, people are withdrawing money. So basically, if you want to run something like that, it means that you need to use servers with high processors. But if you want to deploy an application that maybe it's just your organization that is using, and your organization is just maybe 50 people, you don't need much processor like that. You may just use, like, let's say 10, and you will be fine. So basically, the choice of processor you choose, or the amount of processor you choose, depends on the workload you want to run on the server. The workload you want to run will determine the amount of processor you choose. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes.
So for file server management now, we are using Windows. So for Windows now, you can select your operating system license, either data center or standard. So if you're using data center, it means that data center gives you leverage to create more virtual machines. You can create more virtual machines using data center. But if you're using standard, if you install it, you can't go more than 5 VMs. So here now for servers, for let's say, since we're having extra 2 servers here, which is file server and cloud management. So what I'll do is I'll group them together. So for physical servers, I'll say 2. I'll say 2. Since why I didn't group these ones together is because there's no combination. Yeah, the application server is running on Linux. Why my file management server, let me say server 1 and server 3, which is used for what? Cloud management. Cloud management. So those of us that are very good with servers, like you understand servers very well, you'll be able to calculate those calls. So you understand how many calls will be good, because normally all these are consultation. If maybe an organization now wants to deploy their server, they will meet all these people that know hardware very well, so that they can help them calculate the total amount of processors they can get for the servers and what will be good for the workload they want to run. So basically here now, I'm combining the file server and cloud management server on the same on the same like on the same section. That was why for servers I selected 2. So then for processors now, so since I'm using the 2, let me check how many we gave it. So we gave it 35. So that's perfect. So I can just increase it to 4. Then here I'll change it to 8. So we'll see the price, 8, right? Then for RAM, the other one selected 120. So that means for RAM now, I'm going to be adding the RAMs together for the 2 servers. So here now we have 100 gig RAM and 50. That means the total RAM will be 150 for the 2 servers, since we are combining them. So I'll just type 150 here, 150. So these servers, I need more memory optimization, because the file server is here. So I need more memory optimization than CPU optimization. So for GPU, I can just select any of the GPU I want. But now it's not telling me Windows Server 2008 or 2008, I don't have it. If any of these servers are running, let's say, because if you notice, the Windows OS, it didn't ask us Is it Windows Server 2019, Windows Server 2016, or Windows Server maybe 2025, like the latest now? It didn't ask us. So that's why it's now telling you that is it Windows Server 2008 or 2008 R2? If you click on this notification here, it tell you specifies if the OS server environment is Windows Server 2008 R2. This will model the financial effect of the cloud of extended support, which begins in 2003. But none of our servers is running on 2008, so we just leave that one. So now we are done with server workload. So if you notice here, there's no memory here. All what we have here is just the server specification. The only the memory we have here is for RAM, but we don't have storage. So I'll just click on storage optimization here. So I'll select storage. So if I select storage now, remember on our record here, we have 4 TB HDD. So which is used by our core banking application. So if I add all of them, since all of them are using HDD, 4 plus 20 plus 5 will give me 20. Let me just make this one 5 TB. So everything will be round figure. So I won't be doing too much calculation here. It has been long. I did mathematics, so those advanced mathematics. So let's just say this is 5, 20 plus 5, then 30 TB. So we'll just come here. Then here now, storage, we'll say storage spec. So for storage spec, now remember, all our disks are local. So your disk could be file share, could be blob, but this one now, since it's local, we just keep it as local. So we are not using SSD, we are using HDD. How many TB? Remember, the total TB will be 30 TB. So that's what we are spending. So capacity 30 TB. Backup, we are not planning backup for now because we don't want to do backup for now, and we don't want to do archiving for now. We just want to replicate what we will have on-prem. So basically now, the networking, you can also specify networking also because you know you will need a virtual network. So let me just do destination. Let me select a destination that is close to us, which is South Africa North. Yeah, let's go with South Africa North. So now that I've estimated all this, remember, we did estimate for our application server, which this is spec. Then we did estimate for our file server and cloud management server, which this is spec. And we did another estimate for our storage, which total, when we calculated, total was here. Let's even use the actual price there. Total was 20 TB plus 5, which is 25, plus 4, which is 29. So here now, we just have 29 here. Let's just make it 29 so that we'll get an accurate amount. So TB is TB, let's say 29 TB, 29 TB. We're using 29 TB. So I'll just come down. Since I've already selected the destination region where I want my resources to be deployed, I'll just click on next. So once I click on next now, it will show me other things like the software assurance coverage provided by Azure Hybrid Benefit. So basically what Azure Hybrid Benefit is more or less like if you have your license, maybe for instance, there are some companies that they already have their on-premise license. If you have your on-premise license, you can still use it to Microsoft Azure. That's part of the hybrid benefit that you can enjoy. It's not as if because you have your on-premise servers, you have your on-premise license, you don't go because you want to migrate to Azure. You never go. You can still use your license because of Azure hybrid benefit. Here we can see here, enable this if you have purchased the benefit of your on-premise Windows Server SQL Server. If enabled, Azure hybrid benefit will be applied to Azure Estimate, helps you get more value from your on-premise license. So basically, this works for if you have on-premise license. So you can save up to 40% on virtual machines and up to 82% with Azure Reserve Instance. Like I made mention the other time, Azure Reserve Instance is just like, for instance, maybe I go to an hotel now, and I know that I have a contract maybe I go to an hotel in Dubai, and I know I have a contract that will stay in Dubai for 1 year. And they tell me that if I want to stay in an hotel room for 1 month, I'll spend 5 million naira. And I now ask them, come, I want to spend 1 year in this hotel. How much will I spend? They cannot tell me, okay, since you are spending 1 year, pay 40 million because I'm spending 1 year. So what that means is that they are giving me discount because I'm reserving the space for 1 year. So in Microsoft Azure, if you tell Microsoft that I want to use your resources for 4 years, Microsoft will actually give you discount because for 4 years, Microsoft will give you discount because you are actually using their service for an extended period of time. So with that, you can still save money. So here now, you can just go down, no Joe redundant storage, virtual machine, enable this for the calculator to not recommend BS series. So we can just leave all this. So here now, the cost of electricity in USD. So normally we're supposed to specify everything. So it's giving us the amount per kilowatt, which is 0.1 in USD. So IT labor cost. Normally you are paying your guys now in your organization, you are paying them number of physical servers that can be managed by full IT administrators. So they are just giving you an estimate. So now, if we collapse all this, which is hardware cost, we'll see all the costs. So now, let me just go next. Let's see the total price. So the total price now you will be spending if you are using Microsoft Azure. So now, from here, we can see the graph. So it will even give you a graph, like what you will spend for the next 3 years. So if we go here now, we see on-premise cost and Microsoft Azure cost. So on-premise cost now is this one. That is all. That means if you're using on-premise, in the next 5 years, how much will you spend? 400K. 400K no be small money. It's a big money. In Nigeria, 400K is small money. But in Europe, 400K, like you are breaking the bank. It's actually a big money. So if you are using Azure now, you will be saving how much? Almost 300K price. So if you come here now and compare, so total cost of owning these servers in on-premise, so you see the total amount. So if you are using this, let's even estimate it properly. So compute cost for on-premise, you are spending 35%. Data center cost, you are spending 31%. This data center cost now, that is where all those money is for fuel, for this, for that. Compute is the amount you spend in the RAM and the likes for the server. So storage, 21%, IT 1%, because basically IT people they suffer real way. How much some of them say they work in data centers, how much are they paying? But the company is spending more money in managing their infrastructure. So here now you can see compute consumes 65%, data center 0, because you are actually renting Microsoft data center. You are using Microsoft network. Here you are spending 31% in data center. But here you're not spending anything because you're using Microsoft infrastructure as a service. Storage, you're spending 32%. IT labor, you are spending 2%. So if you look at it, total on-premise cost breakdown, you see everything. Hardware, see hardware price. You see hardware price, right? Because you know you will buy those hardware. And hardware is expensive. Let's be realistic. Hardware, B. Software is small. Then electricity, B. Data center, B. You have networking, you have storage, you have the other one, IT labor. Then for total Azure cost, you have this one here, which is compute. Compute is what is consuming more. But data center 0, network 0, storage 0. So if you look at it now, maybe you go to Pastor Steve. Pastor Steve, this is what you will spend for 5 years if you have these servers in on-premise. Then this is what you will spend over 5 years if you have these servers in cloud. Pastor Steve go tell you, say, come, please, let's migrate to Azure, Joe. But in some customer scenario, it may be that on-premise is even cheaper than Azure. That is why, as a cloud engineer, you need to calculate very well for the customer. You need to know what the customer have before you can even estimate what the customer will see if they migrate to Microsoft Azure. For Pastor Steve now, which is the Living Faith Church, we are going to be saving money if we move to Azure. So like here now, I was calculating ROI. So here now, the return on investment here is 3 million. 3 million is the return on investment if you move to Azure. A total saving of 3,606 with Azure. That if you migrate to Azure, because if you are migrating your workload to Azure, basically you save. Electricity, see what is consuming the money. Electricity, $14,000. Software, $4,000. Here, you're not spending any money on all that. Everything is just there for you to use. So that's just it. So I don't know. This is where we are going to end our class. So
Yes, sir.
we are there.
Sir, please, I
Yeah,
have a question. You
yeah,
said
you can ask the question.
you said that this one is better because I mean the one that the case study that you used, they were spending, is it 6 million naira or $6 million?
You know, that's an estimate. Like on a normal day, you will spend more than this. You understand? This is just like a calculation. Like we're just calculating. So the one you
Oh,
should follow, the one you should follow is the one we have here. The one we have here. So now basically, once you have calculated, so what will happen is the accounting team, they are the ones that will now tell you if it's true. If Microsoft Azure is telling you that the total amount you are spending is, let's say, $4,000, if you are using it on-prem, and the account team now discover that they are not spending up to this, you understand? They can tell you, okay, we're not spending up to this, but most times they will be spending close to this amount. So that's
okay.
just it. They will be spending close to this amount.
All right.
Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining the section. Thank you. So basically, that's just the way total cost of ownership calculator works. It helps you calculate the total cost of owning your infrastructure in Microsoft Azure.
Please, I want to ask you